welcome to another episode of the Meal Prep Monday podcast. I'm your host and founder of Prep Dish, Allison Schaaf. In today's episode, I am discussing the YNAB truth, how meal prep beats eating out every time. I will also go through 4 practical steps to saving money eating in versus out. Before I get into today's episode, I have an email to read from Prep Dish subscriber Miranda. Miranda writes, "Thank you for the opportunity to try your service at no cost for 14 days. It has honestly been a game changer for my family. We are eating healthier meals, spending less money on groceries, and spending less time on meal prep and dishes, etc. I'm so grateful for your service and look forward to being a paid subscriber. Thank you for making this wonderful service available to busy families." Miranda, thank you so much for sharing. If you're listening to this and you have not tried Prep Dish, the 14 days free that she's referring to is our free trial. You can get that at prepdish.com/MPM, short for Meal Prep Monday. I like that she mentioned spending less money on groceries, probably just from having a more organized, intentional grocery list. But in today's episode, we're going to talk about the cost savings that can happen from switching from eating out to eating in, which is often a more significant savings of money. So let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. So I was recently listening to a podcast with the founder of YNAB, which is You Need a Budget. It's a popular budgeting app and service. And Jesse Meckham, that's the name of the founder. It was a really interesting podcast, but he got towards the end. And one of the questions that the host asked is, what do you find is the most significant way that people save money, right? Probably not skipping that cup of coffee. I know that's always the joke, like, oh, skip Starbucks and you'll save a significant amount. Maybe that adds up, but he said the biggest financial win that he sees with users of YNAB is going from eating out to eating in. And when I heard this, I thought, of course, I know this to be true, but I was a little surprised that this was the biggest financial win that he sees. But it makes sense, right? It's something that, you're eating either in or out on a very regular basis. And if you're eating out more regularly, this is going to add up financially, especially because it happens every week or every day or however often you are eating out. And not to consider also the impact on health. But today we're focusing on the financial aspect. So that got me thinking, gosh, I know I talk about that sometimes on this podcast, but it's been a while since I've talked about specifically, eating in versus eating out and the financial impact that can have. I looked at some numbers that said that on average, an American family will spend about $500 a month eating out or over $5,000 a year. Honestly, I think for some families, this number might be a little low, especially with the way prices are these days. We do not eat out a lot as a family, and I know that it adds up quickly, though. So today, what I wanted to do was go through 4 keys to saving money when you're eating in versus out to make sure that you're really maximizing the money saved. So let's go through these 1 through 4. Number 1, start small. So if you're eating out 4 days a week, don't say, oh, my goal is to eliminate eating out altogether. That's going to be unrealistic. It's going to be overwhelming and hard to stick to. So, maybe you're eating out, if you're eating out, for the example, 3 days a week, cut out 1 of those days or 2 of those days. Start with cutting out maybe 1 or 2 eating out periods versus just going from all to nothing, but figure out kind of what that looks like for you. But I would avoid just going all in and not eating out at all if that's, kind of where you're at, but figuring out something that's realistic. Number 2 is to have a plan and write out the grocery list. This is where the key is in terms of saving money. Sure, eating in is going to be less expensive than eating out, but if you're just buying a bunch of random groceries and not using them all, or even worse, buying the groceries and then getting to dinner and not sure what to make, and then eating out, you're even further behind because you have the groceries and you're eating out because you didn't really have a plan. You just bought random groceries without a plan of what you were going to do with them. So the biggest key with this is to have that plan. So write out, look at your calendar. Which days are you going to eat in? And write out a list of those meals and the recipes and what you're going to need to buy at the grocery store. Number 3 is to stick to the list at the grocery store. Make sure when you have that list in your hand, it's a lot easier to avoid the impulse purchases. I also find that online grocery shopping is really good for this reason because you're less tempted to do impulse purchases online. So that's sometimes a good case for doing the online shopping. So just something to consider there. And then number 4 is to refine along the way. Learn how much your family's eating to help eliminate waste. Even if you're listening to this and you're already a Prep Dish subscriber, this is important. So listen to this key. Even if you're using the Prep Dish meal plans, along the way, learn the quantities that your family is going to eat. When it comes to ground beef, do you typically need 1 pound, 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds? What serving size of vegetables or salad will you eat? If you buy a salad for the week, will you eat a 5-ounce tub or do you need the bigger 10-ounce tub? Start to learn the quantities that your family eats along the way. That way, when you're buying them, you can adjust the recipe. Just because a recipe calls for 2 cups of vegetables or 4 sweet potatoes and 1 pound of meat, if you know your family only eats, half a sweet potato per person because they're so huge, but they eat double the protein quantity or vice versa. Just know that, and you can always tweak recipes based on what your family is going to eat. So that's what's really cool is you start doing it, you can really learn how to tweak it and even, further maximize making sure you're eating everything you go through. I've kind of learned how many bags of apples and oranges and bananas and fruit that we'll go through. It's not an exact science, especially with kids, but you do get a sense along the way of buying enough without overbuying. So just pay attention there because that can really help you to fine tune and make sure you are not buying ingredients that you don't need. There's nothing more painful than throwing away unused groceries at the end of the week. So those are the 4 steps, but I do have a reminder, and this is something I listen to some financial podcasts, and there's one Ramit Sethi has one that I sometimes listen to, and I will notice he walks people through their budget and they say, oh, I'm going to cut down on my eating out. They eat out a lot. And then they also at the same time will say, oh, and I'm going to cut down my grocery budget. That's where I want to raise my hand and be like, hey, if you're cutting down on eating out, your grocery budget may need to go up a little bit, right? If you're going to be eating at home more, you need to budget for that. But keep in mind, say you're spending $100 a week on eating out, and maybe your groceries increase by $50 a week for that extra meal that you're eating in. So it's going to be proportionally different, but you might have the grocery bill go up if you're cutting back on eating out, and that's okay. And also keep in mind, so yes, the money dial is going down. The health factor is usually going up. So it's kind of this nice little, equation that evens out. Yeah, so that's what I have for today. I hope you found this interesting. It was a really good reminder for me what a difference it can make eating in versus eating out. I grew up in a small town in Kansas, and we probably ate out once a month. So it just wasn't even an option. And so that's something, as I've gotten older, it's more accessible. And, before kids, we would eat out and all this. But I really grew up not having that as an option. So, it's been harder for me I just would say it's not been an ingrained habit for me ever to eat out on a regular basis. But I know if that is something where a significant amount of your budget is going and you're wanting to cut back on expenses, consider, trying to eat in and see what a difference that can make. And a reminder, if you want help putting together your meal plans and a done-for-you grocery list, we have a 2-week free trial where you can try those out at prepdish.com/mpm. I hope you found these tips useful. I will be back again next Monday with another episode.